Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 316. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today is the second part in the mini-series I'm doing about the 3 questions. I started last week with episode 315, where I helped you to answer the question, who am I? Now that's a massive question to answer, and I believe it's a lifelong journey to self-knowledge. I mean, I know I've been working on this for years, but I think we also have to start somewhere. And I think it's probably best done in stages. This is something that you're probably going to be wanting to revisit over and over and over again. And I do think that the steps and the actions and the suggestions and activities that I shared last week are something that you can come back to over and over again. So this week we're looking at where am I, which is the second question. And that explores where we are in life right now. This is all the stuff that's temporary. So whereas who am I is who you are. And that's something that doesn't really change. Your ability to see yourself at the core will change over the years, but who you are at kind of the soul level, the deep level, doesn't change. You can just kind of get a better viewpoint of that. But this stuff, where am I right now, that's temporary stuff. It's based on where you are right now at this particular stage of your life. These are the things that we can change if we don't like them. And it's also a place to look at the things that we do like, so we can keep doing them. So we're also going to be looking at mindset stuff, which makes up part of the answer to this question. So where am I includes what are all the fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs that I have right now. Obviously not all of them, because that's a lot. But this is really important stuff to dig up and look at so that we can answer the third question, which is coming next week. Where am I going? Each question builds on the previous one, and I really hope that you find this stuff useful. As always, I welcome your feedback, and this is probably the topic of my next book or the following book, so I really, really, really value your feedback on this. Is this interesting? Is this useful? Have you tried the stuff that I mentioned in the episodes, and what do you think? So what are you going to learn this week? I'm going to talk about why it's so important to know yourself and where you are in life. I'm going to talk about the risks that come from avoiding looking at this stuff. I discuss why it's so important and why it can be challenging for us to look at this stuff. How to distinguish between who you are and where you are, which I talked about last week, but I wanted to refresh it. And why this is an important part of planning the life that you want for yourself. So, let's get started. So, as I said last week, who you are is basically unchanging because we're looking at who you are at the very deep core level, the soul level, who you are. Now, like I said earlier, your perception of who you are may change because as you peel off the layers and the masks and the crap that isn't really you, you'll be seeing different things as you work towards getting to the core of yourself. So it may seem like you're changing, and maybe some things are changing, but really who you are at the core is who you are. It's just hard to get there, so it takes some time to peel off the crap. Where you are, which is the question that we're answering today, changes based on where you are right now today, this week, next month, next year. You're always at a different point in your life. And if you're really into the personal development stuff, as am I, this stuff can change quite a bit. So I think this is super, super useful to look at. So why is it so important to know yourself and to know where you are in your life? I think it's really important because it helps you take stock of where you are, what you've got, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to keep, what you want to change. and then helps you create a plan to change those things that you want to change. But I think the reason why so many people struggle with knowing what they want in life or knowing what they want to change is because they're not taking a really good look at where they are. And when we talked about who you are last week, I talked about why it's so important to really be open to looking at who you are without filters. I mean, that's hard, but really being willing to see the stuff that you like and seeing the stuff that you don't like. And seeing the stuff that you don't like can be really hard, especially if you're in a place where you're really unhappy and life feels like crap and you feel like crap and it just feels like so much. Obviously, if you need help and support, and obviously if you need mental health care, get that. Because it can be challenging to dig all this stuff up and then not have support, so get the support that you need. But it's important to look at the stuff that we don't like, otherwise we can't change them. And sometimes when you feel like you're just drowning in a soup of crap, it helps to pick out all the ingredients in the soup so that you can change them, undo them, clean things up, clear things out, and then start moving towards the thing that you want, the things that you want to have, the things you want to experience, and how you want to feel. So the risks that come from avoiding taking a really good look at this are that you stay where you are, you stay stuck in a life full of crap that you don't want to be living, experiencing, feeling. And I mean, really, I think a lot of times we're afraid to look at this stuff, but the worst that can happen is that you stay stuck where you are. Really taking a good look at the stuff that you have that you don't like or the stuff that you're experiencing that you don't like only serves to help you take action towards making different decisions. Yes, it can seem overwhelming, but I honestly feel like for me in my experience, it's been more overwhelming to not put a name to these things, to not make a list of these things, to just feel like I'm drowning in that. It's not a soup, but that's how it came out of my mind. Like drowning in like the soup of crap that can be our lives sometimes if we're in a bad place, if we haven't been making good decisions for ourselves. So for me, it's worse to not put a name to these things than it is to sit down, pull back the carpet, sweep all the dust and crap that we swept under there out into the open and look at it and name it and make a list of it so that we can change these things. Again, if you need support, if you need extra therapy, mental health care, help, get that as you look at this because it can trigger our stuff. So how can you get clear on where you are in your life right now? I'm going to reference my old blog posts from like 2011, 2012, which will help you work through this. But I'm going to go through them now on the podcast. And as always, the transcripts for the podcast usually go live about 2 weeks after the episode airs. So if you feel like this is something that you want to revisit, check the website in about, a week or two, and the transcript should be up there. So for starters, I like doing, and this is a really old school kind of coaching thing where if you're a coach, you might laugh at me for saying this. If you're not a coach, this will probably be new to you. The wheel of life. So the wheel of life is this thing where it's like a pie chart where you section your life into different categories. And that can be, spirituality, health and wellness, career and work, and business, financial, all those kinds of different areas of your life. And I have a wheel of life, which I will link to in the show notes, but you can change the categories and make it whatever feels right for you. But basically you rank on a scale of 1 to 10 how happy you are with each area of your life. Now, I'm a very visual person, so it really helps me to see which areas of my life are going well by my own criteria and which areas of my life are not so good. So even if you've done this before, I think it's worth doing now so that you can get a snapshot of what your life is like now. Which areas are you happy with? Which areas are you not happy with? So you can see what it looks like for you. So usually what I do is when I've looked at that, I then identify the top 3 areas that I want to improve. So maybe you do your wheel of life and you're like, everything's pretty much crap. Fine. But you need to start somewhere. And if you try to improve everything at once, that can be totally overwhelming. So just pick your top 3 areas to improve and get started there. Or if things are going pretty well, maybe pick one area to improve. Or if the whole thing feels really overwhelming, pick one area to improve. And don't feel like giving priority to this one area, it means that everything else gets pushed to the side, because that's not how it is. It just means that you're going to start with one thing so you're not getting overwhelmed. And I really find that as I take action in any area of my life, it makes it easier to take action in other areas, and it means that just things start flowing in other areas. It's like when you step outside of your comfort zone in one area, it suddenly becomes easier to do that in other parts of your life. So pick 3 areas to improve, or 1 area to improve, or whatever feels right for you, just so you know that that's what's important to you. And then leading on from that is priorities. Like, what are your priorities in life? Is it your family? Is it your career? This is kind of similar to what we've just done in terms of picking the top area to improve. But this might help you dig up some more things. Like what's important to you? What are the most important things in your life? What things are non-negotiable for you? So like years ago not years ago, I just left the group last year, but when I was in my spiritual group that I was in for 12 years, we had these kind of personal exercises that we had to do every day. And for me, they were non-negotiable. It took about a half an hour every day to do all of the things. And that was non-negotiable. It did not ever not happen. So every day for 12 years, I did these exercises. I did not miss the exercises. If I was sick and I was in bed, I found a way to do them in bed. It never didn't happen. So that was non-negotiable. So look at the things that are non-negotiable for you. Like, what things do you absolutely have to do every day? And it might be something important like your spirituality. It might be a meditation practice. It might be yoga, or it might be basic needs like eating every day. Or maybe not, because maybe you do fasting and you do a different thing, and maybe you eat every other day. I don't know. But figure out what things are non-negotiable for you. What things are absolute priorities in your life. Next, look at your habits. What habits do you currently have? What habits would you like to have? What habits would you like to get rid of? I did a podcast episode on habits not too long ago. It was episode 306, and it's called How to Create New Habits That Last. So, in looking at where you are in life, it's not just about wanting to create new habits, but looking at where you are with your habits. What are your good habits? What are your bad habits? What habits are you happy with? What habits do you want to change? This is not a value judgment thing. So I just use the words good and bad, and I'm aware of that, but it's what feels good and bad to you. What habits do you want to keep? What habits do you want to let go of? And then look at things that you want to do, things that you feel like you should do, things that others tell you that you should do. Look at your weekly schedule and classify the stuff. And if you use Google Calendar like I do, or if you use a printed planner or whatever, look at the stuff that you do every week. Look at how you're spending your time and classify it as, is it something that you want to do? Is it something that you feel like you should do and that's why you're doing it? Is it something that you do for others or that others tell you that you should do? This, I think, is really useful to see why you do the things you do every week. And then look at your time wasters, the things that you do to procrastinate, what you do when you procrastinate. Look at how you procrastinate and what those things give you. Like, do you spend a lot of time browsing certain websites, whether it's social media or something else? Do you spend a lot of time playing games on your phone? And what do those things give you? Do they give you a break? Do they give you a rest? Do you feel like it rests your brain? Do you feel like it's kind of like a palate cleanser for your brain in between tasks? Or are you really just wasting time? And that's fine. Again, not a value judgment. Don't judge yourself for this stuff. You need to look at how these things are serving you because they're serving you in some way, otherwise you wouldn't be doing them. So I recently got an Oura ring, Oura, and I'll link to that in the show notes. But it's one of those kind of tracker things. So it tracks some of the same things that my Fitbit does, but it tracks them differently, and it's really geared towards helping you get better sleep. So it tracks your temperature throughout the day and night, and your heart rate variance, and gives you a lot of data. I really like body data, so I really like having both a Fitbit and this ring. The point of telling you this is not to advertise the ring, but to say that in the app it has these things called moments. So it has these little guided meditations where you take a moment and you listen to this thing. You can either do a guided meditation or do a breathing exercise or just listen to nature sounds or relaxing music for a few minutes. And while you do that, the ring tracks your heart rate, your stuff to show you like how that compares to, for example, your sleeping time. Anyway, I'm really loving it. I've had the ring for about a month or maybe less than a month, but I hadn't tried the moments until the other day and I really, really loved it. And I think this is going to become a part of my regular day. It's a good way to let my mind rest and take a break. And it's like a meditation kind of thing. And I don't meditate very often. I haven't been doing my morning routine very much lately because I've had other things going on. So I really think that just taking 10 minutes throughout my day will be a really useful break rather than perhaps playing a game on my phone like I might have done before. Now, I think there's a time and a place for everything, but this is an example of how you can look at your distractions or time wasters and find something else to do if you think that it might be useful. I still think there's a time and a place for playing games as long as they don't disrupt you from doing the things that you really want to be doing. Then look at what's your ceiling. Like, what's your self-imposed ceiling? If you look at all the things maybe on your bucket list or the stuff that you want to do in your life, your goals that you would like to set but maybe haven't formally set, what's your ceiling? Like, what are all the things that you think, oh, I'm capable of this. Oh, I'm not capable of that. What are the things that you would like to do in your life, but you think maybe you can't achieve? Maybe you think you're not good enough to achieve them, or you're too old, or you're too young, or there's not enough time, or you don't have enough time, or you're just not the kind of person that can achieve that. I was online the other day and I was reading this question. It was on Reddit. I think it was in the Ask Women subreddit. It was a question that was something like, how do you come to terms with the fact that you're not going to achieve all the things you wanted to achieve or some of the things you wanted to achieve in life? And I was really pleased to see that a lot of the comments from people were, I'm not dead yet, so I haven't come to terms with that because I still have time to do the things I want to do. But I think that question is coming from a place of, this woman's looking at her ceiling thinking, there are all these things I wanted to do, but I need to come to terms with the fact that I can't for whatever reason. So what are the things that you think you can't do? I think that's really, really worth taking a look at because a lot of times that's really subjective. And a lot of times, if you make some of those things a priority, of course you can do them. So, next question. The voices in my head say, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I can't do that. Was that creepy that I just whispered at you? I just kind of naturally went into whisper mode. So what do the voices in your head say to you? Like, what's your negative self-talk? What's your positive self-talk? What's your self-talk? And again, I just use the words negative and positive. What's your self-talk? Is it limiting? Is it enhancing? How does it make you feel? What is the stuff that your head says to you? What do your mind gremlins say to you? This is super important to really look at. And you might find that you get more of the unsupportive stuff rather than the supportive stuff, that's fine. Dig this stuff up, put it out there. And I should have said this earlier. Take notes on this. If anything that I say like triggers a thought for you, write it down, go through this again, listen to it again, and make notes and like pause after each thing. Again, I hope to be writing a book about this. I hope to turn this into an online program, but today is today. Here we are, and you can get started on this stuff now with what you've got, which is this podcast episode. So, next, what do you get from other people? So I talked about this a little bit in last week's episode, but what is the crap that you've taken on from other people? Because this is temporary. This is stuff you can get rid of. So did a teacher ever tell you you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not good at a certain thing? Did parents, did family members ever tell you this crap? This is mind crap that we can get rid of later down the line. But we need to look at what is the stuff that we're carrying around with us, the baggage that we get from other people, so that we can eventually unload it if it no longer serves us. So some of this isn't, it's going to be supportive. It's going to be enhancing to your life. It's not all going to be crappy crap. Some of it's going to be, you're really good at such and such. Maybe someone told you you're really good at school and that motivated you to try harder. Or you're really good at sports. And so you grew up thinking you were good at fitness stuff. I grew up thinking I wasn't good at sports. I was really bad at PE in school because it was all related to ball sports. And now I know, probably because of my autism, I'm terrified of flying balls. And phys ed was all about flying balls. So it took me until I was in my mid-20s to finally realize that I could be a sporty person and I could run and I could do physical stuff. And now that's a really important part of my life. Now that I'm in my mid-40s, I mean, it has been for the last 20 years, but it took me a long time to uncover the fact that I could do that stuff because no one ever told me I could do that stuff. Because I thought, either you're good at sports or you're good at school, but not a lot of people, well, no, that's not true. There were a lot of people in my school that could do both, but for some reason I thought that I couldn't do both or I couldn't be good at both. I just had one or the other. So that was my own self-imposed limitation. So again, take a look at all this stuff without judging it. Just looking at it. What serves you? What doesn't serve you? What do you want to keep? What do you want to let go of? Because all this stuff you can let go of by doing the mindset work. Looking back at your life, what are some recurring situations or what are some recurring types of people or personalities that you've had come into your life over and over again? So for me, recurring types of people are narcissists. My ex-business partner was a very toxic narcissist, and apparently that wasn't enough for me. So I went on to attract another couple of people in my life in the last 10 years that were very similar on a much lighter scale, which meant that it was much more subtle, and it took me a lot longer to recognize these people for who they were and what they were. I kind of hit myself in the head by attracting a really big bad person for about 10 years and then attracted some lighter versions. So look at the kinds of people that you've attracted into your life and the types of situations that you've attracted in your life that serve you, that don't serve you, and look at that because you have attracted these people and places and things for a reason. To learn something from them, to grow as a soul, to grow as a human being. Sometimes that feels like crap. Sometimes it's really difficult. On the other side, perhaps you have attracted a number of really supportive people in your life. Look at that as well. Again, this is not all digging up the crappy crap. It's also looking at the good stuff, the supportive stuff, the stuff that feels good, the people, places, and things that feel good. So look at recurring situations, both, again, good and bad, positive and negative. I don't like those words because it's all stuff that has served to support us and challenge us and give us learning opportunities in our lives. So don't judge, but Sometimes using these words, good and bad, positive and negative, enhancing, limiting, whatever, can help us dredge up this stuff so that we can look at it. And again, you're going to be dredging up stuff that's supportive. You're going to be dredging up stuff that you want to get rid of. You want to dredge up all kinds of stuff. Don't judge it. Finally, is looking at your fears, your blocks, your limiting beliefs. Now, all this stuff that I've talked about for the past 25 minutes is going to form a part of your fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs. But just start writing it down. What stuff are you afraid of? What areas in your life do you feel you have a block? What are your limiting beliefs? What are your beliefs that I can't do this? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. What are they? And I've written a bunch of books about this, my mindset books. They're all based around business, but it's all stuff that you can apply to life. So those books are really inexpensive. They're ebooks. You can download them online. If you're a patron at a certain level, you get them for free. But you can download those books and just use them to help you dig up what your own fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs are. So, how does it feel to look at this stuff? I think it can be really triggering sometimes. And I think this is work that you're probably going to have to do over and over again. Same as answering the first question. Because sometimes we can only do so much of this work at a time. And sometimes we can only see so much of this stuff at a time. As I do this work with myself, it's like peeling off the layers, and it takes me time to be able to see the next layer. So I think this is stuff that's useful to revisit over and over again. And again, if looking at the stuff triggers your crap and you feel like it's too much, get help, get support. Get professional help and support. Get help from your friends, your family, whoever you need. Always get help if you need it. However, this is important stuff to do. And, maybe if it feels like too much, do it little by little. Revisit one of these topics at a time and then get the support to work through the stuff. But I think that sweeping all this stuff under the rug and refusing to look at it is not the way to go. It's the stuff that's going to keep us stuck where we are. And if you want to change your life, if you want to change what you're experiencing, we need to look at the stuff that we're currently experiencing that we don't like. And also the stuff that we do like, because it's really, really important to know. This is what I like. This is what I want to keep. This is what I don't like. This is what I want to change or let go of or transform in some way. So I hope you found this episode interesting and useful. Again, this is a half-hour podcast episode. There's only so much I can do. And I don't want to overload you by doing like a 2-hour masterclass. I'm going to leave that for later with the book, with the workbook, with the online program, which will at some point happen. This is to help you get started on your journey. And I hope to provide more support for this in the coming weeks and months. This is a topic that's been super, super important to me. And think that's why it keeps coming up for me over and over and over again. These 3 questions, who am I, where am I going, are super, super important to help you more easily create the life, the lifestyle, the business, the career, the whatever that you want for yourself. So digging up this stuff and looking at it is a really important part of planning the life that you want for yourself, because next week we're looking at your vision for yourself. Where are you going? What do you want to experience? And how are you going to get there? So, again, I welcome your feedback. I hope you found this interesting and useful. I just said that a second ago, but it's really important for me that this is not just entertaining stuff. I hope that you get some use out of this. So please drop me a line. Let me know what you thought. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch there. I would also love for you to join me on Patreon. Membership starts at just $1 a month. If you find this podcast useful and would love to support it, I would love to have you on Patreon. You get done for you heart-centered energy work, all kinds of stuff, depending on what tier you sign up at. If you go to patreon.com/Holly Worton, that's patreon.com/Holly Worton, you can join me there. Again, thank you so much for listening. Remember to visit hollywharton.com/316 for the show notes on this episode, and check back in a couple of weeks for the transcript. The vast majority of the episodes that I've done over the years have transcripts up there. They are available. I copy and paste them within the show notes. I also make a PDF available for you to download. No opt-in required. Just click and download the PDF or read it on the website. So again, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.